tell us again, what's your new job?
I'm going to be a deputy district attorney for the first judicial district up in um, Santa Fe.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for joining me.
Of course.
You were just saying it's about to rain there in
Yes.
Albuquerque.
The sky is all gray, black. I love it.
It doesn't happen nearly enough, does it?
No, no. I love summer, so nice
Yeah.
to have the monsoon.
The rain in the summer is one of the things that makes me love Albuquerque.
Same. The house I'm in now, I've been here 22 years. I
Really?
hate I hate moving.
I hate moving too. So your whole life in Albuquerque?
No, I lived in Jacksonville, Florida, right out of high school for about 2 years. And then I lived in Chicago for a year when I did my first year in law school. And then I lived 2 years in West Virginia and finished up law school there and came
Oh,
back here.
wow. Where in West Virginia?
Morgantown, West Virginia,
Yeah.
just
I used
south of
to
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I used to live just in Washington, Pennsylvania. So
Oh, sure.
just
Oh, yeah,
between
right across the
Pittsburgh
border.
and Morgantown.
Yeah.
I like it there. It's
It's
so pretty.
beautiful. It's beautiful. And Pittsburgh is a really, really cool town. If my family was not here, I probably would have moved to Pittsburgh. And one of my close friends here is from Pittsburgh, so it's always fun to talk to her about Pittsburgh. And in fact, my friend married a local, so she's here. She's here
She's
for good, I think.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
beautiful, and my dad's family is from the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, and so I got in touch with like second cousins, and then I spent a lot of time in Washington D.C., which I also love.
that's a very nice city.
Yes, yes,
It's
it
kind of a stark contrast when I was living in Pittsburgh and then I would visit Washington, D.C. I was like, wonder where the money is.
is. Yeah, for sure. I mean, West Virginia is it's a lot like New Mexico, though. Actually, it's so rural and it's poor, and there are a handful of good schools, but when I lived in Chicago, there were 20 good, colleges and graduate programs, but West Virginia, like New Mexico, only has like WVU's the big college,
That's
big
the one.
university, and it reminded me a lot of New Mexico.
It does more so now that I live in Texas
Mm.
because I feel like Texas is the Pennsylvania, the big rich state, and then New Mexico is just like the poor state next door.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live in Texas though. So,
Oh man. I've lived everywhere, so I can do anything.
yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
bothers me.
So here we are, we're in our 50s. It's a different ball game.
It's a fun time to do this, though, because
Yeah,
everybody seems old enough that they can look back on whatever happened
yeah, that's for
with
sure true.
some sort of wisdom or insight or something.
Something. Hopefully it's not regret. Hopefully it's not a lot of
Well, and even if it is, they can just get it off their chest and we'll record it in history and then
true enough. True enough.
we
True
can
enough.
all tell it goodbye.
Yeah.
Did you go to Highland? Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Valley. Well,
Wow.
I went to Valley, then I went to Sandia, then I went to rehab, then I went back to Valley, and then in order to catch up and graduate on time, I went to Albuquerque High Night School as well.
Wow. So
Yeah.
high school just went really well for you.
I grew up on 12th and Manal, and I went to Cochiti Elementary School, and then I went to Garfield Middle School. And, I think things really started to change for me when, when I was in January of '86. So I grew up going to Hummingbird Music Camp. Um, it was a lot of fun, but so the way that the camp was kind of set up was the same group of people would go year after year at the same session, so that you were always with your friends. And
Okay.
um, one of my friends, who I was in eighth grade, she was in seventh grade at Taft, and she killed herself. Yeah, in January of '86, and it just kind of changed the landscape. In the
Man.
'80s, I'm sure we were all listening to the Smiths or Joy Division, and you know, being depressed and
Wow.
Depeche Mode and stuff. But then, somebody actually does it, and it really,
Wow.
it
That was,
really
so
changed.
that's eighth grade for you.
Eighth grade for me, seventh grade for her.
So you should have graduated 90, 91, something like
90.
90.
90.
So, any theories? Was she just like clinically depressed? She was abused at home? I don't want you to gossip about your friend, but you must have thought about it a lot.
I mean, I remember seeing her because we all used to meet up at the Big Apple, and she went to Taft. She went to a different middle school, so we would only see each other on weekends, really. And, I remember seeing her in the weeks up to it, and and by we, I don't even really know who else I'm thinking of specifically, but we felt like she had sort of stopped taking care of her personal hygiene. But, we all dressed in black clothes and we all kind of had that persona. But after she died, I sort of remember everybody kind of saying,
She seemed like she wasn't all right.
yeah, but, she shot herself, which was
In the
really
seventh grade? Wow.
very violent. It was not a situation where, she accidentally took too much, whatever, or, it was, she was very clearly trying to
Serious.
kill herself. Yeah, yeah.
My goodness. Was she your person? Did you guys have a group, or she was just your best friend?
No, she wasn't my best friend.
Oh, I see.
I mean, we were like a cohort, a bunch of good friends, and we all hung out at the Big Apple together. There was a group of like probably 5 or 10 of us from Garfield, and then a group from Taft, and we hung out with a lot of kids from Jefferson, maybe Wilson. I don't really remember what other middle schools, but I remember those 3 middle schools.
It's hard
But
on
she and I had
hard on
originally
everyone.
met at camp.
Is it just hard on everyone?
It was hard on everyone. Yeah.
Wow. My goodness.
Yeah. It
And
was hard.
that was before you even got to high school.
Yeah.
In Albuquerque.
Yeah.
At Valley.
Yeah. And I don't, the other thing was that the Space Shuttle Challenger. So she died in January 7th, somewhere around there. And then the Challenger was 3 weeks later. And I just remember thinking ugh, the world is death. It really set the tone for me. And yeah, so when I started at Valley, I was still really good friends with that smaller cohort. But when I got to Valley, I met a couple of people who were older than me, and I really pretty significantly drifted apart from the group that I had grown up with, like kids from kindergarten. And, I started doing drugs, and that was I started running away from home. I really I didn't identify with those kids anymore. It seemed like I took Amy's death a lot harder. I just remember feeling very isolated from that night. That I did not rebound as easily. And of course, we had drank in middle school, I think, maybe. Totally remember, but certainly by the time I was a freshman, I was smoking cigarettes. I think I had started smoking in middle school. And I started doing acid, and I don't really remember smoking pot. I guess I did a little bit. I didn't really like pot that much. But, I ran away a bunch of times, and, things were just not great.
What were your parents like?
Well, my dad was a lawyer, and my mom is an artist. She worked for the city, and my dad he had his own office. It was just him. I'm an only child, so it was just the three of us, and very liberal, for the part. I mean, I think every kid gets screwed up by their parents, but
You ran away. Were there big fights with your parents, or just
yes,
kind of
yeah.
spiraling at this point?
I mean, I think I was spiraling, but I don't know if you felt this way, but it was like desperation to get out of Albuquerque. Like, all this other stuff was very put on a pedestal, going to LA or, whatever it was that you thought that would, save you. They were, parents over here and I was over here, and I think in some ways it just never occurred to me to tell them like what I was feeling, and I don't think I knew what I was feeling.
Sounds like you're just spiraling, like you just had a
Yeah.
traumatic event and you're stuck and you're going to go around in circles for
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
Did it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did the friends you make at Valley, were they good people?
They were fucked up people. And I don't even know how I met this person, but my best friend she was a year older than me, and she had not gone to Garfield. She was a sophomore. And I don't think she had gone to Valley for her freshman year. Um, and, she was struggling in her own way. And so she and I kind of became partners in crime, I guess. But we had all these friends that were, you know, so we had friends at Highland, we had friends at La Cueva from camp, friends at
Oh.
Cibola, friends at Rio Grande, friends at Albuquerque High. I mean, the first year that La Cueva opened, I think was 90, or no,
Oh, yeah. Oh
88.
no, somewhere in there. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a
yeah,
big
yeah.
deal.
Yeah, it was a huge deal. And so I had friends all over the place. And so any like house parties were how we would get together. And um I just started hanging out with kids who lived down by the frontier who didn't have parents. I don't know where their parents were, but they were able to rent apartments down by the frontier, and when I feel certain that some of the kids were over the age of 18. But yeah, I mean, and I would, we would go to the hood, is what we called it, the neighborhood, and we would go over there on weekends and God, hang out at the frontier. Oh
And
God.
people's houses. Some of our friends lived in the UNM area and like their moms had nice houses, but other
Yeah.
people have told stories about wandering in to the wrong places when
Yeah.
you're down there.
Yeah.
Like
There
somebody's
was a
cooking
house
speed in their bathtub kind of stuff.
lived on Columbia and Central behind what was then the Vickers gas station. And that guy was making and selling a lot of bathtub crank. And there was this house on the corner of Cornell and Silver, which had been a nursery, I think. And so it had all these like paintings of like babies and like dice and stuff on the outside. And a bunch of punk rockers had rented that house, and we literally called it the nursery. And then they rented the house directly to the north, and all these folks lived in those houses, and they would have these huge house parties, and we would go over there and drink ourselves silly. As soon as I discovered meth, which would have been the end of my freshman year, I was like, I don't need booze. I don't need acid. I don't need pot. Like, it immediately became my drug of choice.
Just spoke to your brain.
Yeah,
Just
spoke to
spoke to
my
your brain.
brain.
Yeah.
And I started injecting it
Damn.
probably my sophomore year, maybe.
Because that's what was happening in the area. That's what was happening in the city.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I would date guys that were 10 years older than me, 15 years older than me.
I saw punk rockers. They went through it too. The speed came to town and just wrecked a bunch of people, and some got through it and some didn't.
Yeah.
And then other drugs came after.
Well, I got sober in 1989, So so I got sober. I got sober pretty quickly, and immediately got out of that scene for the most part. And so by the time I feel like with by 91 or 92, there was a lot of heroin and crack, which I missed that.
Good
I
thing.
missed it coming on one night. I had been partying at the nursery and I was really, really drunk. And I walked down to the Frontier, and this was before it was 24 hours, and it had some payphones outside. And I called my parents, and it was probably 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was shit faced drunk. We'd been drinking Mickey's. Ugh.
Ew. Beer.
And uh, and my parents came and picked me up, and they were really pissed off, as you can imagine. And they took me to rehab the next day. And so that was my first stint in rehab. So that would have been like 1980, 88.
Gosh, you sweet girl, you're so young.
Yeah, I was really young.
So
But
I want to go back again. You're taking acid, you're smoking pot, and then all of a sudden one day people are snorting speed, and then one day somebody's like, "Hey, let's shoot this up," and then suddenly the whole town is shooting up speed. How long did you live through that?
well, I probably did almost a year, and then I went to rehab, and I was clean for a couple of months, and then I started back at it, and then so it was probably another like 10 months, and then I went to rehab again.
You're how old?
I was 16.
16.
Yeah, I was 16, say
Speed.
1989. I was 16. I turned 17, so it was my junior year of high school. I turned 17 that August because I graduated. I was like I was 17 when I graduated from high school. So I was the youngest of my class rather than the eldest. So like a lot of my friends turned 18 like 2 months after I turned 17. So yeah, it was wild. But I don't, there were probably 5 psychiatric slash rehab hospitals across town where everybody was sending their kids. Like, it seemed like it was a really big deal. And everybody was kind of doing it. And insurance paid for it. I remember that. My parents were like, thank God for insurance.
That's what's important. I remember it. I saw people shooting up speed. I specifically remember the summer before my freshman year of high school. 2 years after that, total destruction. And then that wasn't bad enough. Then other drugs came to follow.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I remember liquid acid being around. One of my first boyfriends would drive out to San Francisco and buy sheets of acid and come back to Albuquerque and just sell it. And he was 16. Crazy.
God. I'm so glad you're still alive.
Oh God, me too. Nobody expected me to be, but here I am.
Did it get dark and bad?
My parents were doing a lot of emotional work on themselves to sort of figure out what was going on with me and to figure out a way to keep me safe and figure out a way for me to get sober. And I wanted that, or I didn't think that I wanted it, but I wanted it. And I, the second time I went into rehab, it was right at the beginning of the crack epidemic. And I remember I was reading Newsweek magazine, and it was talking about people doing crack in Philadelphia. And I remember thinking, God, what a bunch of shit bags, what a bunch of, junky pieces of shit. And then I remember being like, oh, wait a minute. that's me too, you know, and I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
That's what got you out of it?
Initially, yeah. I mean, I think I still, I still partied. I still made really bad decisions about the men I dated, and I but it was the beginning of, who I am today.
I want that part of the story for sure. But what inspired you to call your parents that night?
Well, in all honesty, there was this guy who had been a friend of mine, and he was dicking around with me. He was trying to I guess rape me. I don't know. And I didn't feel safe, and I got up and he walked with me down to the frontier, and he kept trying to get me to go back to the nursery with him, and I just was like, no, I'm not, like, this is not what I'm doing. And I had never really, I'd always, not made good decisions around sex. So why was I like, I mean, men are dicks, they always kind of perpetrate it, in my experience. And so I was used, I had boyfriends who were in their late 20s when I was 15. And so it just never occurred to me that that could be abusive, I guess. And so for whatever reason with this guy, I was like, no, I need to get out of here. And I went and called my parents. And I don't even think I told them about that. I'm sure I didn't, but
Did you have an inkling they'd send you to rehab?
I didn't think they'd have the balls to send me to rehab.
Really?
No, I thought I was in charge. I thought
I'm
I was
proud
the
of.
one calling the shots, to be 15 again.
Wow. How was rehab?
It was wild. The first time I was there, I was inpatient for maybe 3 months. I liked it. I mean, I felt like it was giving me a break from all the shit that was happening in my head. And I didn't have to worry about, fighting with my parents, and I got to be away from them, and I didn't have to worry about food or, having clean clothes, or, like it was very comforting, and I liked it, actually. And I really liked the rigidity of it, the rules, the clarity of communication. Like, I really appreciated all that stuff, and I still love that stuff. So it was sort of the beginning of me saying, oh, all right, well, so I like rules. Okay, here we go.
That's a great story. It would be, I would guess it's a lot of practicing mindfulness, which after your friend died in middle school, you had not even addressed yet. You're just in a loop.
Yeah, I mean, when my friend killed herself, my mom got me into counseling right away. And so this tool of being in counseling, or talking to somebody, was helpful when that happened. And so then I think that when I needed it for my issues, for my depression, for my drug use, it was a good fit. It was easy for me to embrace it. And I guess in that way, I've just always been really introspective.
That just didn't have that before when you really needed it. Like, I mean, if there's a death of a friend, or then all this traumatic stuff is happening and you have no idea how to, like, be mindful about it. You're so
Yeah.
young.
Hmm.
That's a lot.
Well, so I relapsed. I went back to rehab, and the second time I was in rehab, I was bullshitting one of the, like, techs. They weren't even like a counselor. They were just like people that were, in the facility. Maybe they were like peer, I don't remember, but I was talking to her, and I was bullshitting her about the extent of my drug use. And she said, you know, Edna, that I don't fucking care if you lie to me. And I was like, you don't care that I lie to you? What do you? And she said, I know you're lying, and I don't care that you're lying. It's not my life. She said, I go home at the end of the day and I, cook dinner or whatever, and the lying is you're only hurting yourself. And that really struck me. That really had an impact, and so since then I've just kind of done my best to always be truthful, at least with myself, and you know, keep searching, keep moving, keep thinking about yourself, keep making good decisions. And I didn't really make great decisions the next couple of years. Like, I got married to this guy right out of high school, who he and his best friend, we were like a peer group of three, and we had done a lot of drugs together, speed, meth. And the one I ended up marrying joined the Navy, and I was like, oh well, he doesn't do drugs and he has a job, so that's great. And so I married him and moved to Jacksonville, Florida. And he was really physically abusive, and so I was in that relationship, that marriage, for 2 years. And then for whatever reason, I was in counseling. I had managed to get myself into counseling, and he had gone to jail for some other stuff that he had done, stealing some money. And I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And so I moved home, and I moved back in with my parents. And my parents said, well, if you're going to live with us, you need to go to UNM. And so I did. I registered at UNM, and I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. But I think that first semester, maybe the second semester, I was walking around campus and I saw a flyer for a class that was called like the 15th Amendment, pornography and civil rights, and feminism, or something like that. And I was like, that sounds really interesting. So I signed up for this class, and I decided right then and there that I was going to go to law school. And that's what I did. It took me, so that was 90. So I didn't graduate from UNM until 96. And then I did a year of a graduate program at UNM. And then I got into law school and went to law school in 98. I started law school in 1998.
Yay!
Yeah.
Badass.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean,
I'm so proud of
yeah.
you.
And I didn't want to go to law school because of my dad. Like, I never.
Because he's a lawyer.
He's a lawyer, yeah. And I was never interested in it. I thought I was too dumb, honestly. When I took this class, it was just so mentally stimulating to me that I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing.
And you set your mind on it.
Yeah.
And just did it.
Yeah. It was like the first time I'd ever set a goal, because I never, I was never intentional or mindful, like you said, about anything prior to
I wouldn't think you ever had a chance. You went from the
right.
8th grade
Yeah.
to suddenly you're 22, 23.
Yeah, 21.
Like, you just wake up in rehab one day. Like,
Yeah. And like, I remember my
What
senior
happened?
year, one of the guidance counselors at Valley had said to me, Edna, you're too stupid to go to college, so you should probably figure something else out. I was like,
wow.
oh, you're right. I'm too stupid.
You send him a Christmas card these days?
I actually saw him at one of our high school reunions.
Really?
Like,
Why did you go to all those different high schools?
So Valley was my neighborhood high school, and I had run away a whole bunch of times the spring semester of my freshman year, and I had a boyfriend who he might have been at Highland for his freshman year, or Albuquerque High, maybe. Anyway, and he decided his mom was going to let him go to Sandia, and my parents liked him, even though he was like selling acid. They didn't know that part. And I said, well, I want to go to high school with him. And I think they thought that that would be a good idea. And so they let me transfer to Sandia. And, I got into a lot of fights at Sandia. I got suspended a lot.
Really?
Oh, God, yes.
What, you came from Valley High School and started trouble at Sandia?
Well, I like to think that they started trouble with me, but
Okay.
yeah. And so then I went to rehab that spring of my sophomore year when I was at Sandia. And so when I got out of rehab, I did their high school through that spring and I think through that summer. And then at that point, I was sober, and my parents were like, okay, let's go back to Valley.
They didn't know
And
what to do.
yeah, but my best friend in high school at that period of my life was at Highland. But her parents had gotten divorced, and she had moved down by where I lived, and so she and I started hanging out, and that's when I relapsed. And so then I was in rehab again, but I was still behind because I was still failing stuff. And so then I wanted to graduate on time with my class, and so I went to Valley during
Albuquerque.
yeah, I went to
Did,
Valley during the day, and then Albuquerque
Albuquerque.
High night school.
I haven't heard that in a while. Albuquerque High Night School. I forgot
Yep.
about that.
It was a
Uh,
great school.
was it really? I knew a lot of
Yeah.
people that just wanted to get a damn education without.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. But, I was like most teenagers, like I wanted to sleep late. I didn't want to have to get up and go to school at 7 a.m. And it was nice to be able to take later classes at Valley and then, drive over to Albuquerque High Night School and take classes. Yeah, it was really, and I didn't want to go to like the CEC, which was what the Continuing Education Center. I had a couple of friends who like did the nursing program there, and
the TVI kind of.
yeah, no,
Is
it
that what it
was
was?
CEC. It
Oh,
was
oh, I see.
Yeah, it was next door to Albuquerque High, and so they did like cosmetology, like auto mechanics, nursing, like associate degree nursing stuff. I don't like maybe computers, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't know what the
No.
hell I
Well, I'm proud of you. I think you're getting better already. Like before
wanted.
you're out of high school, you're starting to
Yeah,
get it together.
yeah, I was.
Was the speed and the relapsing? It's like, was this a physical addiction for you, or is just what you were doing, who you were hanging out with, and what was happening in the world?
Hmm.
I mean, I'm no counselor, so that might not be an accurate way of asking something, but
Well, I yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know how to characterize it because speed is not addicting in the same way that opiates are.
agreed.
Um, so, like, if you quit doing speed, you don't immediately start withdrawing, or at least you didn't then. I just remember, like, I liked it a lot because I felt a sense of clarity. I felt a sense of focus. I felt a sense of, like, I didn't like my brain being clouded. And so that's why I didn't like pot. That's why I didn't really like booze or like LSD. I just wanted like the clarity. So,
Clarity.
yeah. So, I mean, I guess in that sense, I was addicted to how I felt when I was on it, but I was not
Mm-hmm.
physically addicted.
Were you emotionally attached to the scene? The people that were still doing it was your friends and the
Yeah.
boyfriends and
Yeah.
all your scene.
Yeah.
Did it get bad for them, or did they start coming out the other side?
Well, so the guy who was my pretty serious boyfriend for my senior year of high school, and because I had gone to college, I had gone to UNM for like a semester and a half, like between high school and when I married the guy I had done drugs with. Um, he ended up, he was, oh, that guy was a fucking mess. He was, what drugs was he into? I don't even remember all of them. He did all of them, and he ended up. He was from Pittsburgh, actually, and he ended up going back to Pittsburgh at some point, and I never saw or heard from him again. I have no idea what happened to him. Same with another good friend of mine. She went back to Boston, never heard from her again. But so let's see. Um, one of my friends, he went on to be in the army for 20 years. Another friend, he moved to went to chef school and became a really popular chef. One of my best friends, when I was a sophomore in high school, she got sober and she's a PhD and teaches at, I don't know, some college in I don't
I'm
know.
so happy you told me that you're getting better before you're out of high school.
Yeah, yeah, I was very lucky. I was very lucky.
Well, do you hear about people that experiment with drugs later in life? And that's almost always a disaster.
Hmm.
So just maybe the fact that some of these things were done when we were young, like our brains could handle it and they could recover.
Well, and certainly my parents could say, we're sending you to fucking rehab and you're not getting out. And insurance was such that they could afford to have me there for, you know, more than 7 days or whatever it is now.
Can you really get the care that you need if you're suffering really
Not now.
from addiction today? As family members are always worried about people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've never struggled with alcohol. I still drink on occasion, but I never was like, oh, now I'm gonna be a drunk. I mean, I had a really good friend from middle school and high school who he was a drunk, and then he started doing heroin, and he got sober from heroin probably 18, 20 years ago. But he made a very conscious decision that he was not going to stop drinking. And he died from cirrhosis probably 2 years ago.
Well, someone that does heroin and alcohol, it's that same sedative effect,
Hmm.
right? They're just trying to
Yep.
sedate themselves.
Yep.
Again, I'm not a counselor, but some things seem to be related.
Hmm.
Yeah, heroin would probably be like the extreme version of alcohol.
Yeah. But even then, I mean, the heroin that people did wasn't fucking fentanyl. It wasn't,
Oh,
they
that, yeah.
apparently they lace meth with fentanyl.
Tommy Bottom was on this podcast. He said they found it in cannabis already. People have died from smoking it. Like, that's a whole other story. Like, I can't pay attention to the news today because it's so bad that I'm trying to like look back and see how we got here.
Yeah, I mean, those times were wild, but it's crazy to think that drugs were safer.
Yeah.
I was a
Okay.
horrible student. School, college, and law school was very hard for me. But I did it, and my marriage was very, 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 very abusive. And so when I got divorced, it was really hard. And it was hard because this was back like before really you could even get domestic violence orders of protection. And so, but anyway, so I took this women's studies class slash law class, and I was like, fuck, like I'm really interested in women's rights. And so that is what I focused on. And so when I graduated, I came back to Albuquerque. My first job was at legal aid doing poverty law, housing, and helping victims get orders of protection. And then I became a prosecutor, and I was a prosecutor for 10 years. So I did intimate partner crimes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Homicides, rapes, all of it. And then I went back to New Mexico Legal Aid and worked there for 8 years. I just left New Mexico Legal Aid about 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
And I'm going back to be a prosecutor up in Santa Fe.
Oh my goodness. They make TV shows about girls like you.
Nah.
You should get your own Lost show.
No, it's just because I'm good at, handling really dark, awful stuff.
Are you really? That's what, I mean, you're pretty structured and good at your job, but are you just good at
Yeah.
that part too?
Yeah, I mean, I am very strict with myself about how much I work, and I'm very strict, I'm in therapy, so I have all these mechanisms to process the information. I don't work over 40 hours a week unless I absolutely have to. I don't bring work home. I keep my home very separate from my work. I have a 7-year-old, so I don't have a lot of time to do anything. So, yeah.
It matters to you, women's rights matter to you, so you're willing to dig into that dark stuff that needs
Yeah.
to be addressed.
Yeah.
Good
I mean,
for you.
I feel very lucky to witness and be present with people when the worst thing they can imagine happening happens to them. And I think that my job is to usher them, to steward them, to protect them into sort of whatever is next for them. So I feel very lucky that I can handle all of that stuff. And so I keep doing it. It doesn't burn me out, and I do well at it. And I like it. So
That,
that's kind
it's
of the
really nice how you said that too,
thing.
because I understand.
Yeah. I feel very lucky to, and going to law school is the best thing I ever did for myself. Like, I can support myself. I have a house. I have a nice car. My kid, she has an iPad and dinner on the table. Like, I feel incredibly lucky. And that, I have a skill that I can contribute to my community, and I'm going to do that.
What a good story. I'm really proud of you. I
Thank
think
you.
I've said
Thank
that
you.
like 100 times now, but
Hey,
uh,
I never get sick of hearing it.
no, it's just really great what you're doing. Do you have perspective and thoughts on why New Mexico and Albuquerque is so? I mean, you've told me already there's drugs everywhere. There were drugs at all the high schools. Is it just Albuquerque? Am I naive? Is that what all cities in America are like? Violent crime,
I mean,
drive-by shootings. It just seems like a very unique environment all the way back
I think
as far as I
that
can remember.
I don't know. I don't know. I I can't think of too many friends outside of New Mexico who had high school experiences in terms of like doing a lot of like they were more like, 18-year-olds doing a lot of drugs. Like, they were a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that there wasn't a lot for us to do. I think that the laws in New Mexico have always been, and still are, very lax about drugs and violent crimes. We're a poor state. Yeah, right? Like, we've always been
Mm-hmm.
poor, so everybody's like, well, we just, just keep going, Like, and I think that yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question.
Always just seems like a little much. I mean, it just seems like a little much. I so understand how it is today. I mean, I don't understand why it is today. I'm always interested in going back. But I know a lot of the influence we were right on Central. It's Route 66. You're hanging out at the frontier, just
There's
growing up in
definitely
that
like
neighborhood.
this cultural kind of, like, it's a small town, but we're in the middle of nowhere, but we think that we can easily get coast to coast. And I just remember thinking, like, we're in the middle of like Texas, Arizona, and Colorado. Like, why aren't these bands coming here?
They started coming. Do you still go see any shows?
Fuck no, I'm too old. I'll break a hip. I was talking to somebody and they're like, oh, let's go to a show at the El Rey. And I was like, oh, no. Nope.
You got
Can
no.
I sit down? No, I'm not going. I go to bands that I like now, but it's, somebody was here just a couple of weeks ago.
Albuquerque does have a great music scene, and I thank all those punk rockers for doing it.
In the graveyard every Friday and Saturday. That's where we hung out. The Jewish section, because it had walls around it. And then the caretaker would come out and shoot you with rock salt. And you'd have to run, and God. And we would go out to the dig, which was behind the airport, house parties, club racks. It was wild. We used to, oh God, the graveyard. So my daughter's summer program is right down the street from the graveyard. She's like, "Is that a graveyard? What do people do there? Is it what?" I was like,
well,
when I was a kid, we did drugs and partied. Because again, the Jewish section had a huge, 10-foot wall around it, so you could be in there, and
all the trees.
Yeah, nobody could see you, and it had really nice grass.
Well, and I keep pointing out on this podcast that the graveyard itself was beautiful, and not all of us were I was partying there too, but I liked it there. I just liked the trees and the grass and the old markers. It was just like another one of our parks.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, and Yale Park, of course.
Do you remember those days, like before they put buildings there, when it was still early and everyone was selling drugs, like just right there on the grass?
Dilaudid.
Hippies? Like hippies, acid?
Quaaludes.
I'm wondering when they came in and like when the gangs came in.
I feel like the bus started to come in like around 89, 88, 89.
The same time the speed came in?
No, the speed was there much earlier. I think that, like, do you remember the game room that was down across from Yale Park?
Oh, okay, no. But I get the point.
But this was like at the tail end, and the tail end for me. In fact, I might have already been sober, but I still hung out down there. Anyway, these sort of biker dudes kind of moved in and started dealing meth, and a woman who I knew from the scene ended up later marrying one of the guys. And I think she's still married to him. She's a realtor. Like, another woman is a nurse practitioner midwife. When did we become so respectable?
Only recently, just like in the last 6 months.
Crazy.
Maybe a year.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it was such an influential time, too. And Albuquerque's got a lot of fun things to be proud of. We got skateboarding and punk rock and good friends. I mean, we went through a lot together. And apparently, excellent prosecutors.
Right, that's right. If you get sexually assaulted in Albuquerque, I'm your gal.
Should I remember that? I could probably give you a list of a couple dozen ladies and men that are like, okay, here's the dates.
Yeah. In some ways it hasn't changed at all, but in some ways it has, things are, the number of homeless people, it's hard to believe that but I think we're probably dedicating less resources now to education and healthcare and stuff than we were 30 years ago. It's fucked up.
So it was bad enough then, and now it's
worse. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you get to work, lady. Protect us from those bad guys.
Thank you so much.